Hi, welcome to my video on the squares and cubes of integers. The square of an integer. The square of x is written as x squared, which is x times x. I'll use a dot for multiplication. Find the square of each. Negative 2 squared is negative 2 times negative 2. Negative times negative is a positive, so it's a 4. Because you have like signs, you get a positive. Negative 3 squared is negative 3 times negative 3. And like signs, when you multiply, is positive. So you get 9. I could put a plus there, but I just put the 9. Negative 5 squared is negative 5 times negative 5. And when you multiply like signs, you get a positive, so you get a 25. So notice I wrote them out. You practice these, see if you get them right, and press pause and play it back. Negative 1 squared is negative 1 times negative 1, which is 1. Because when you multiply like signs, you get a positive. Negative 4 times negative 4 is 16. When you multiply like signs, you get a positive. And negative 8 times negative 8 is 64. Multiplication of like signs. 2 like signs, you get a positive. Well, cubes of integers. The cube of x is written as x cubed, which means it's x times x times x. So find the cube of each. Negative 1 cubed is negative 1 times negative 1 times negative 1. Notice you have an odd number of negatives. So 1 times 1 times 1 is 1. And because there's odd negatives, you're going to get a negative. Negative 2 cubed is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2. And that's 2 times 2 is 4 times 2 is 8. You got an odd number of negatives, so you're going to get a negative. Again, just check. A negative times a negative is a positive, and a positive times a negative is a negative. So negative 5 cubed is negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5. And you could 25 times 5 is 125. Because it's an odd number of negatives, you're going to get a negative when you multiply. Pause the video, work these out, and press play. See if you're right. Negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. It's 27 because it's 9 times 3. And an odd number of negatives when you multiply is negative. Negative 10 times negative 10 times negative 10. 10 times 10 is 100. Times 10 is 1,000. And you get an odd number of negatives, so it's a negative. Negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4. Sorry. 16 times 4 is 64. And odd number of negatives is a negative. Okay, let's continue. Now, let me explain something that is a little bit confusing to a lot of students until you get it straightened out. The difference between, okay, here, the square and the cube of an integer. And over here, I had the negative of the square and the cube of an integer. You might say, well, what's the difference? Well, just look. This is negative 2 in brackets squared. And this one reads the negative of 2 squared. So that means it's the negative, just to write that down, that's the negative of 2 squared. This one is negative 2 all squared. So A is negative 2 times negative 2, which is 4. But over here, it's the negative of 2 times 2, and that gives you negative 4. So this is a negative because the 2 is not squaring the negative. Be careful. Negative 3 in brackets squared is negative 3 times negative 3, and that's a 9. But over here, notice, it's the negative of 3 times 3, which is negative 9. Negative 2 cubed is negative 2 times negative 2 times negative 2, and that gives you 8. But because it's an odd number of negatives, it's going to be negative when you multiply. Notice this side over here, no matter what happens, it's always negative, no matter if it's a positive or even power or an odd power. But over here, when you have in brackets, if it's an even power, it'll be positive. If it's an odd power like 3s or 5s or 7s, it'll be negative. So be careful. So this is the negative of 2 times 2 times 2, which is a negative 8. Negative 3 cubed is negative 3 times negative 3 times negative 3. and that's 27, and there's an odd number of negatives, so it's negative 27. But this is the negative of 3 times 3 times 3, so that's negative 27. Note the difference. Very, very important. Be careful. If it's in brackets, then you're working on squaring and cubing each of those numbers. But over here, it's guaranteed to be negative because it's the negative of 3 cubed, the negative of 2 cubed, the negative of 3 squared. Practice these, pause, work them out, and come back and see if you're right. Negative 5 times negative 5 is 25. Negative 1 squared is negative 1 times negative 1, 1. Negative 10 cubed is negative 10 times negative 10 times negative 10. It's 1,000, and it's an odd number of negatives, so it's negative. Negative 4 times negative 4 times negative 4 gives you a negative 64, odd number of negatives. But notice on this side, it's guaranteed to be negative because it's what? It's a negative 5, it's the negative of 5 times 5, which is negative 25. Number 2 is the negative of 1 squared, so it's a negative 1 times 1, which is negative 1. This is the negative of 10 cubed, so it's the negative of 10 times 10 times 10, which is the negative 1,000. And this one is the negative of 4 cubed, negative of 4 times 4 times 4, which is negative 64. Again, notice the difference. The odd powers, you can't see the difference because they're going to be negatives, but the even powers is when the difference occurs here. And extras, practice these. Pause your video, work them out. Negative 8 squared, negative 8 times negative 8. And that's 64, positive, because the negative to negative is positive. If you have a negative, this is the negative of 8 times 8, so that's a negative 64. This is the negative 6 cubed, so it's a negative 6 times negative 6 times negative 6. And 6 is 36, 36 times 6 is 216. Use your calculator if you want. Or sometimes, if you want, you can take your calculator but be careful, you can use your bracket and you can put a negative 6 bracket and press your power, there's your power exponent, and hit 3. And you get a negative 216. But notice, let me explain. You have to use a bracket. This is negative. Don't get confused. That's a subtraction sign. That's the negative number. That's used for the negative numbers. So negative 2 bracket, there's your power button. There's a square, there's your power button. And if you put that to the 5, you get a negative 32. So be careful. That means for a negative number. That means a subtraction. Be careful if you use your calculator. Practice them with your calculator. And you have a negative times a negative times a negative, odd number of negatives, negative. And this means the negative of 6 times 6 times 6. So it's a negative 216. Again, be careful. Be careful with the exponents of negative numbers in a bracket or not. Thank you for watching my video, and if you like it, press the like button, the subscribe button, the notification bell. Write a comment if you wish, and visit my math website at www.mathfullyexplained.com. Get information about me, my teaching, my degrees, and the section on videos. What teaching style am I going to use to help you learn? There's several tricks I have and ways of learning that follows through. And in the content section, you have the topics on the YouTube channels. You have the number of videos on each topic, and the black font is what's already completed, and the red font is what I will complete in the near future. Thank you very much.